Vivek, please tell us how you got involved in the whole issue of 377.
Well, so I mean, as a queer person myself and as a law student, I certainly was struck by the idea of this law, although we never really studied it in law school. It was glazed over by the professor who was teaching us criminal law. And so, for instance, you had a Humsafar in Bombay or a Nas Foundation in Delhi, which was doing the work, but the police were harassing its workers, etc. So that kind of crystallization of the connection between law, criminal law, and sexuality became quite evident. And those were times when you really felt like, wow, you know, the world is closing in that sense.
In fact, very few people were prepared to come out. And
very few of us, very few people were out in that sense, although I must say that I remember coming on national TV in 2004, and it felt like really bizarre to come out on national television then.
But actually the community was very upset that we had not fully consulted them.
Yeah, which was fascinating and totally took us by surprise. I certainly had friends within the community, and I think some of those friendships were deeply challenged because of that backlash. I perceived certainly as a backlash. It felt very isolating in many ways for a few years because there was a certain hostility, there was a sense that we had filed either to get ourselves ahead of everyone else or because we didn't consult them, and I think on some issues there was certain valid kind of, at least concerns which I could understand. For instance, the use of the word privacy. Why did you use that language? Why did you use certain other language in terms of identity and queerness, etc. in the petition? And the government filed an affidavit in the Nas case. And there was a sense of panic in the community, and we thought this was an opportunity to say, okay, let bygones be bygones, let's start talking to each other. And that was, I thought, an extraordinary thing. You know, there are documentary films made about this which don't document any of this. There was a sense of, we will fight this and we will not be cowered by this. We will, so that solidarity of effort, I thought it was, there were ways in which you could tell that the people's confidence around some of this.
That's, I mean, in terms of your personal, you were not in India, but in your personal life you have been supported very strongly by your family, which is not the case for a lot of people. Can you talk about that?
My frustrations around 2013 and how I just had the, I was deeply fortunate to have a family which actually is completely okay with inclusiveness generally. And he was the last person I told. I told my mother and siblings 5 years before I told him, so he was deeply affected and hurt by that. But one of the things he told me after 2013, after my despondence around what happened, was that, one of the great things about being in a democracy is that democracies are about contestation. Constant contestation, and the courts is a venue for that. It's a civilized venue for that, and so you can't feel defeated by this. You have to contest on, because the country has changed. The country has been more inclusive. Historically, the courts have been more inclusive generally. So I mean, I think that was the one way in which I was reminded that the fight is still on very much.